The Irony of the Military. June 12, 2020 by Anna von Reitz. We have cause to know, and have known for a long time, that there are dirty generals and admirals in our military. That is unavoidably true. The military, and most especially, the U.S. Army, has been in charge since 1863, when Abraham Lincoln issued General Order 100, otherwise known as the Lieber Code. If they have been in control this whole time, and they have, it follows that things could not possibly get this messed up, without a significant number of rotten apples at the top, on a generational basis, too. If great-grandfather was a corrupt general in the Union Army, chances are actually pretty good that great-grandson is a corrupt general or colonel, today. This generational corruption is common in all branches of the service. You see it especially in the Navy and the Army, but it has crept into the Marine Corps and Air Force, too. There are certain names, like McCain, that have an immediate debt load associated with them in this regard, and members of the services at a certain level are all well acquainted with the military families that are responsible for this taint. When their sons are sissies they send their daughters, because the lure of absolute power and unlimited money is simply too strong to resist. The upfront result of this intergenerational corruption and influence peddling and preferential treatment is that some pigs really are more equal than others in our military, and some are so much more equal that they get away with murder, like John McCain, and are still touted as war heroes. I am using McCain as an example, because his name and story are well known, but there are many, many, many examples of the same thing over the past 6 generations since the end of the Civil War. In addition to this intergenerational military elite corruption that harkens all the way back to the era of Grant and Sherman, we have more modern examples of military corruption that derive from 2 other sources. 1. Special ops carried out by various military and quasi-military subcontractors being used to support criminal activities like drug running, money laundering, human trafficking, espionage, and political assassinations, and 2. Pilfering. If you discount the cost of machinery associated with special ops, loss of planes, helicopters, armored vehicles and such, and just look at the cost of operations, plain old-fashioned military pilfering outstrips special ops 3 to 1. And when you look at the special ops budget, even with the noted exceptions, 3 times that is an absolutely staggering amount of pilfering. It's pilfering far, far beyond the kind of fetching and conning and trading that one knows about and accepts when radar gets on the phone to Sparky. This is pilfering on a scale that would dwarf the combined average GDP of half the countries in the world, combined. And it is all just walking out the door, day in and day out, worldwide. This is not about lifting a few gross of toilet paper or a few thousand gallons of gasoline. This is about unimaginably large thefts of military and civilian supplies being derailed, smuggled, misappropriated, misdelivered, chopped down, rebranded, and resold, and it is not even necessarily being sold via any sleazy back alley black market. Most of the time, it is simply re-entering the supply chain and being sold to outfits like the dollar store and Walmart. This means that you get to pay for it twice, once when it is requisitioned by the military, and again, when it gets siphoned and presents itself for sale at your favorite box store. Because it's the military, and because the military is in charge, there has been no oversight on any of this. This is how Donald Rumsfeld announces blandly enough, that, well, DoD is missing $6 trillion it can't account for. And the talking heads go back to sleep without a comment. This is also the genesis, in a slightly different context, of trade deficits like the one between the U.S. and China. You have Chinese generals on one end of the pipeline and U.S. generals on the other. How is it that the pipeline just loses $23 trillion worth of content, and nobody knows how, and this deficit builds up for over 2 decades? A leak of over $1 trillion per year? Really? And nobody caught it? It takes hardcore corruption in both military organizations to make it all possible, because, obviously, if the Chinese generals were reporting on the American generals, or vice versa, such a situation wouldn't last a nanosecond. Instead we have General Ziping covering for General Sullivan, fictional names of course, in exchange for fat kickbacks of the gravy, and when the poo finally hits the fan, all they have to do is lie about each other. It's Ziping's fault. It's Sullivan's fault. Obviously, it is both their faults and the fault of the politicians who are supposed to be in charge, and everyone involved was getting kickbacks on a siphoning scheme that large and of that duration. The strange tale of the American national credit runs parallel, only this time the two parties on either end of the drained dry pipeline are the Department of Defense Division of Fiscal Services and the Federal Reserve System. It was a system, all right. The kind that Al Capone would talk about late at night. I hope this tip of the iceberg view of the problem is coming home to you, along with the fact that this criminality has been unopposed because it was the military doing this, and the military has been in charge. All those congressional oversight subcommittees? The inspector generals? The blue ribbon commissions? Nothing but top-dressing to make it look like there was reasonable civilian oversight, when in fact, there has been none since 1863. Nobody has been keeping the books on the military. Nobody has been minding their store. So, ironically, the organization that we have most depended upon and trusted to keep us safe, our vaunted military, is actually the organization that has most betrayed our trust and pillaged and plundered and pilfered us all blind. I am sorry to say it. And I am sorry to see the names of the men, the retired generals, who are now gathered round, baying at Mr. Trump like a pack of foxhounds, because whether they know it or not, they are condemning and identifying themselves. They might as well put on neon vests and carry around a placard with the word "guilty" painted on it. Who has a vested interest in prolonging and hiding the fraud and embezzlement? Who really, truly, doesn't want us to ever get to the bottom of any of this? Who resents and resists actual civilian oversight? The dirty generals and dirty admirals don't want to accept any actual or effective civilian oversight of their activities, for obvious reasons, and don't want to admit what they've done. Still, it all comes down to this: if our country is in trouble, if we've been embezzled, if our money is no good, if we are not safe in our beds, if we are not happy in our lives, the blame for it lands on the military, because they've been in charge the whole time. Links to Anna's articles and resources can be found in the video description box. Thanks for watching, liking and sharing. If you enjoy having Anna's latest articles made into videos, please consider making a purchase from Ed's website sacredintuitiveelements.com. Thank you.